Got it. We're recording. Cool. For those of you that are watching the recording, I just introduced myself, but you're not going to get that. So bummer. You're just listening to a dude now speak words. So I'm going to launch into a little bit of presentation here, but I'm hoping it's going to be kind of interactive. We're going to do lots of breakout rooms. There's a lot of heavy hitters in the room here tonight. So hopefully you'll get to meet a lot of cool people, bounce ideas off of them in a smaller environment than this massive one. But we're going to go over a few things before that. So let's see if I remember how to do all of this stuff. So far, so good. So I always like to have the video panel. There we go. So I can actually see you all. Oh my God, there you all are. Great. And that way I know I'm not just speaking into the darkness. Perfect. Great. So teaching engaging Zoom lessons. That's what I named this thing. And really the main objectives of this workshop is to hopefully avoid boring the crap out of people whenever we do this. I know for me, and probably for a lot of you, sitting down and staying still for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours is really, really hard. It really sucks because we're used to being outside. That's probably why you got into this line of work. And so you like moving your body and moving around, and you stay engaged through moving. So Zoom is a very hard medium. And for a lot of our students, it's going to be a very hard medium as well. So what I hope to do in this presentation is hopefully establish some Zoom teaching best practices. And I've got 8 that I'm going to go over, but hopefully we can come up with a couple more. And then I'm going to show you all a couple strategies and resources that you can use going forward into your season teaching over this medium that'll hopefully help you out. And then a big one, since there's so many of you here today, hopefully you're going to make some connections in the Avalanche instructor community and get to meet some new people and hang out. That's always nice with these things. So Zoom. First off, the Zoom best practices. So anytime I start a classroom session with people on Zoom, I like to walk through, like, what are the expectations for them over this medium? And for us right here in this, we are also going to do the same thing and establish some Zoom best practices here. So first thing, for those of you that missed whenever you first came in, I would love it if everybody just had their video on and their audio off. So audio off, video on, and that way I can actually see you. I have you all shuffling through right now so I can see if you're yawning or bored. And it's really great for you all just to have that for all of your students as well, right? Like come in, and instead of them like playing video games or whatever that kids do these days, they're actually there, and you can make sure that they're staying engaged, or if they're not, maybe you can do something weird with your arms and get them to look at you again. So exceptions for this is, you know, if you're pooping, if you're doing something compromising that the rest of us shouldn't want to see, then of course turn off your video. But if we're on a break, right, we can always turn off our video. But for the rest of the time, let's just have that on. And then audio stays off unless you're asked to speak. If you do have stuff in your background you don't want people to see, if you don't know about this, there's this choose virtual backgrounds button right next to your video. You can blur your background. You can be in the desert. You can be in space, right? You can like get as crazy as you want, express yourself with this. You can hide whatever's going on in your background if you don't want people to see. Sweet. So now I'm going to get into one of my favorite parts of Zoom, which is polls. So in the traditional classroom space, right, if I were to ask an open-ended question to like 24 humans, really like the loudest student, right, would be the one that answers every time. So this is like the loudest, most extroverted student, and then folks that maybe take a little bit more time to process or are less confident or more introverted tend to stay silent. So you kind of hear from the same people over and over and over again. But with polls, you get to hear from everyone. So for you all, I want to hear from everyone. Let's launch this first poll here to kind of figure out where you all are coming from. Nice. Almost there. Some people are probably already out to lunch. That's good. Oh no, 33 of 34. So proud of you. You have 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. Almost 100%. It's probably Liz. Liz is probably gone. All right, ending. Let's see. No first-time Zoomers. That's great. Zooming occasionally. We got 2 Zoom Jedis on board. I'm not one of them. That's great. Those people are amongst us. But it looks like everybody's got a little bit. Got a couple people that have never taught over Zoom. Sweet. Never taught an actual course, taught a few courses. Great. Cool. So we got a mix from all across the spectrum. So that's like one of the things I really like with polls is I can very quickly get some baseline understanding, right, about like where folks are coming out. I can also check for understanding. So if I'm teaching something, especially in snowpack, that's maybe just a little bit over some people's heads, I can ask really pointed questions to see if they're tracking with me. And so this is something that I can do throughout my presentations, right? Because think about just like doing your snowpack thing over Zoom and you're clicking through your slides. It's really nice to know that people understand what you're saying before you go on. And polls actually break up you speaking words, so it's not so monotonous. So I would posit that polls should be your default way to ask questions to students, unless you're just calling on students individually off the roster and doing something that way, that whenever you're asking just a blanket statement, use polls. And they're really cool because you can set them up ahead of time, and then you can create a template that you can use in the future so you don't have to recreate your polls every single time. I know for our operation, we just have an AIARE Zoom level 1 template. And then anytime that we're going to teach another course, we just use that template to create it, and all of our polls are there. So we can just reuse those polls, add more if we want, but we at least have like the baseline of having some good polls to use throughout our presentations. Great. So now let's talk about the chat box, which Liz already started to chat about a little bit. I see that some people are actually using it. So the chat box is great to utilize to have any of y'all or any of your students ask questions. So if you need any technical help with Zoom, Liz is here. She's in the background. She's going to be able to help you out. But if there's also questions on any of the content that I'm asking or any of the logistics of anything, the chat box is where you can do that. So using the chat box rather than having people just unmute and ask questions obviously keeps the presenting instructor, me, from being interrupted, losing my flow. Because how many times have you from your presentation been interrupted in the in-person classroom setting whenever a student raises their hand and asks a question and you're like, oh, I'm about to cover that, or oh, like just wait in like 5 minutes, like I'll get to your question, kind of a thing, right? So by putting it in the chat, that kind of becomes that parking lot questions thing on the whiteboard, if you ever use that. So that's just like person asks a question and oh, if I don't cover it, I'll get back to that later. That's what the chat's for, right? Keeps it easy. And having at least one other person that's an instructor in the lesson or in your room is going to really help you out because they can vet those questions, right? They can make sure that, oh, if I do need to interrupt you, they can be the ones to decide that. And it's not like the student that's deciding to interrupt you. So use the chat box for that. Great. I'm not going to read any of the things going on in the chat. I hope Liz is doing an awesome job with it. And I assume.
We got you, Zach.
Great. Thank you. That she'll interrupt me if I need to know anything that's going on in the chat. Sweet. Another thing, you can provide links to resources and activities in the chat. So there's a lot of times whenever, or tonight even, we're going to be using breakout rooms. And so I'll actually put a link for the breakout room activity into the chat. And so then people can just click on it, already have it open, have all the instructions before they break out and launch into the breakout room. But also articles and photos and other things you can just put in there as well, which is really nice. So I kind of led in with this as well, having Liz here, but having 2 instructors in a classroom session is also a Zoom best practice, because that way you're not being pulled in multiple directions, having to worry about, are people understanding how to use some certain feature on Zoom? Liz is here, she's doing it. Cool. Other things with chat, say your question to everyone, unless it really needs to be a more private thing, and make that a default, because everybody's questions are probably going to be valuable. Probably, maybe not for Dallas, but yeah, hopefully you're just first on my screen, Dallas, I'm sorry. But yeah, say it to everyone unless it doesn't need to be. And then one last thing on this is that you can actually use reactions. And if you're on a desktop, there's lots more. But the one I mainly use is the thumbs up one, because that sticks around for a while. So if I'm asking people to read or write something, they can give a little thumbs up emoticon thing, and that sticks around a lot more than people just doing this on their video. So the emoticons can be pretty useful as well. So let's get into breakout rooms so I can stop talking so much. So first thing about breakout rooms that I think about is the think, pair, share format. And if you've never heard of this, this is just a simple way to structure different activities. And so the think part of it is allowing folks to think about whatever it is you want them to think about individually. Before you put them into a social setting where there are those more aggressive people that have opinions and aren't afraid to speak those words, people that are potentially more introverted or more laid back can take this time, take the space, right, to write out some thoughts and have some dialogue or some inner dialogue before they're put out into their pairs, right? So this is where we group people together to discuss in a small group. So give folks time individually, then you group them together to do the activity or have the discussion. And then hopefully you can come back into the big group and then have somebody from each of those individual breakout rooms be a spokesperson to then present the findings to the rest of the group. So everybody gets some of the learnings. Hopefully you're familiar with this layout, but I thought I'd just throw it in there. So we're going to launch into our first breakout room activity. But before we do, I'm going to post some questions into the chat so that all of y'all can think about it individually before we get into there. So if you got pen and paper, feel free to write some of these things down. If you've just got like a phone, you can make a note. Think about those questions.
Great. And one addition, I think that Zoom has changed so that the chat that's here now doesn't follow you to the breakout room. So you might want to grab a quick screenshot or copy paste that.
Oh, you won't need to, because I'm about to give you a link that you can open up and then you'll have all the instructions.
Zach, the Zoom sensei.
Stop it. Sorry to cut off. I know probably some conversations that were occurring. There was definitely, I got into one room there at the very end, and there were some great conversations happening. But we got 2 more breakout sessions to get through. So hopefully that was useful. Can I get a couple volunteers of some people that were the spokespeople of their rooms that would like to share some thoughts that were brought up? You can use your little, there we go, Dallas, thank you. God, you use that emoticon so quick.
Yeah, they threw me under the bus really fast in my breakout room, Zach.
Yeah,
to make me the spokesperson. Oh, this probably isn't surprising, but a lot of the conversations in each breakout room were a lot of similarities. But we really felt like we have mixed, sort of mixed feelings about Zoom versus in person, and recognize that there's some real strengths to that, like physical in-person interaction. But there's a lot of places where Zoom can be can also be a real benefit. Some of the lessons that we've designed, where especially when they revolve around computers and trip planning, can really benefit from being on Zoom. Be a really natural way to teach them. And then also there's a real convenience thing. And I thought probably one of the best statements that came out of our group was, if we were hosting a very similar instructor class tonight, you would not have 34 people on it. And so the convenience factor that we have with these Zoom and e-learning platforms just can't be overlooked. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but also some real benefits to the Zoom piece of the platform.
Awesome, thanks, Dallas. Well, I'm going to pop up one more poll. Let's see, there we go. Let's just see. Let's see what people think. Cool. That's pretty consistent. Like every time I've asked a group of instructors, it's been about this. Like 75% are in person for sure. And then about 25 are oh yeah, I like the online. So that is interesting. Cool. Any other volunteers want to talk about some of the things that you all talked about in your breakout room?
Zach, I could chime in just for a minute.
Great. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, no worries. So we didn't have a whole lot, or not everybody had a whole lot of time to talk. And I think that just really dovetails into one of the challenges of Zoom. And for me, especially, is the time management side of things. And then also keeping people engaged. And so we shortened our presentation times just so people aren't falling asleep. So we do 35-minute presentations, and we do a breakout room in relation to that presentation after each one. And one thing that has helped us in the past with the breakout rooms is we set our time on it, but then we have a countdown timer. So that pops up. And I think you guys had it too, but I believe it was 30 seconds. We do 10-minute breakout sessions, and we do a couple of minutes of a heads up that pops up. So we know okay, as an instructor, I'm teaching cool guys, we got 3 more minutes, let's kind of speed it up a little bit and kind of talk about what we need to. But yeah, and then I think from the folks who were able to talk, there was benefit to the Zoom, like you guys already had mentioned, as far as people not having to drive to a classroom. They can take the class from the comfort of their home, sort of thing. And then with the breakout rooms, putting people in the breakout room who might be in the same tutoring group while in the field also helps, because they already kind of start to build that repertoire with the group. So that's about all I got. Thanks, Zach.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. And then, yeah, Josh brought up a great point. I typically would do 1 minute of warning rather than 30 seconds. I don't know if you can adjust that. Yeah, 2 minutes would be great for this webinar just in the future. Thanks, Liz. But yeah, just having a little bit of say. Travis, you got something you want to say?
Yeah, and this actually, I also got thrown under the bus at the last minute, and so I had all these good notes, but they pretty much already been said. And I just wanted to add my own thought, and that's that this online teaching has really enabled the hybrid product. It's not something we really had before this. I mean, it's sort of a byproduct of a pandemic, but we were all forced to kind of start doing it. And I'm starting to work with motorized users who are, in my opinion, are harder to convince that they should take 3 days of their time to take a whole course. And so in us being available and willing to teach a hybrid product through something like Zoom, we may be capturing more users that need Avalanche education. And so just kind of to put that out there to everyone.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. I thought whenever this stuff was first starting, I was like, oh, this will just be like a thing that happens. And then once the pandemic gets over with, like it'll go away. We'll go back to in-person classroom. And I think what we're seeing is that people are actually preferring that flexibility, and that it's way easier for them to not have to take any time off of work and just show up for a weekend and get that Avalanche education, than to like have to take off a Friday or a Monday. So I think that the hybrid course is a thing that people really want, and the Zoom thing is kind of here to stay, at least for a good long while. And so even though I too prefer the in-person classroom and actually getting to be around humans and like do activities that move people around, it seems like that's not actually what the majority of people are wanting. And so it's kind of unfortunate. I think there's always going to be this demand for in-person because some people are like, no, I learn better in person. But I think the vast majority, if like we're wanting to like capture as many people as we can to provide education, like this is going to be the way to do it. So that's kind of what we're doing in this webinar, right? It's like trying to figure out like, how can we make this better, and not just be this us speaking words across the screen. Krista, you got something you want to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, although I appreciate that comment about that it's here to stay and stuff, I still think that people appreciate that one-on-one. And so the Zoom assists, I agree, the Zoom assists, but there still is nothing to replace that one-on-one when you're out in the field.
Oh yeah. I don't think we're going to get VR goggles and just like have people sit home and be like, okay, like this is like our hand hardness. I hope not. Like we should never get there. That would be pretty bad. Great. Well, I'm going to stop us there on that because we do have a couple more discussions I want to get through. So I'm going to share my screen again, if I can get my presentation back up. Here we go. There it is. Okay. So if you all have never used Annotate before, which some of you maybe have not, let me get my video panel again. There you are. Annotate is pretty cool. It is the way that we can use Zoom to actually do things that we would do in person in class, like having people draw on pictures and label terrain traps and all of those kinds of things. So if you don't know where to find it, if you swipe up to wherever like that little green box says like Zach sharing his screen, to the right of it, there should be a little drop down and then like this little thing that says annotate, that allows you to choose one of a lot of different things, but I want you all to draw. I'm just going to make sure everybody knows how to do this by looking at this photo. Choose draw, and if avalanche hazard wasn't a thing, where would you go skiing? Sky's the limit. Up into the sky. Krista would just drop straight fall line. Good. Oh yeah, now we're getting it. Somebody would just curl up into a heart. Cool. Seems like people understand the annotate and how to do it. So we could go ahead and stop. This is the hardest part with students too. Stop annotating, stop it. I'm gonna try and clear it. Annotate, there it is. Annotate, clear all drawings. Whew. or else they stay on your next slide, and it's really annoying. And then people start doing it over and over again. And I feel like I'm back teaching elementary school. All right, people got that. Great. Where are y'all zooming in from? Find the stamp button or thing and annotate, and go ahead and put where you're coming in from. And if you are coming in from outside the United States, you can write it in over there. Nice. That's pretty impressive that you wrote it. You can also type it. There's a type thing. You can type stuff.
Hey, is there a way to like make that font bigger so we can all see it? Because it's really small on the screen.
Which font?
Oh, I guess I see now. It's like people who are typing, and that just comes up right next to where they're annotating or typing.
Yeah, it's just their name. Whoever's doing it, their little name pops up. Great. Kind of all over. Sweet. So it looks like people understand the annotate, understand how to use it. This is good. Cool. Moving on, clearing all drawings. So how this stuff works, right, and works the best is that people need to share their screen. And so sharing the screen is great, leads to collaboration on labeling images, drawing on things. I don't know if people use this, but a lot of times I have people actually use this whiteboard feature. So you can click share screen and then whiteboard. And this is great. I have people draw the snowpack on the whiteboard. But anything that like you'll need people to like draw something like they would on a whiteboard, having somebody share screen and then do whiteboard is great for it. I'm going to put this into the chat. Or I'm not. There it is. See, it's been a while since I've done the technological thing. And so none of my things are smooth right now. But I'm putting a question into the chat. What are some other lessons where annotate is useful? Type some out for us. Terrain, yes. Just terrain. That's all we use annotate for. Nice. There we go. There we go. Yeah, run lists, checklists, great. You can use it for tons and tons of things. That's what I was hoping to get at. And it allows everybody to collaborate on the things. Best tailgate areas. Yes, Owen. Love it. Cool. So teaching people how to share their screen and do the thing, it's a really good thing to do. Great. So with that, we're gonna do another little breakout room here. Bam. So I'm gonna put another breakout room link into the chat. Hopefully, there it is. Get link. Copy link. So out of practice. There it is. This one's going to be a lot quicker because hopefully people understand how these things work. So probably 5 minutes, 5-minute breakout room. It's going to be so quick. I expect all of you to be able to label terrain traps and things of that nature extremely quickly and have like a good little conversation about it. Can everybody open this thing up? Working? Great. Liz, whenever.
Great.
And they're back. Hi. Anybody want to, you don't need to share your screen and actually like show us where the terrain traps and things are, but would love to hear what other things people do for terrain. So if somebody wants to go, oh, there we go. Already doing it. You can share your picture while you talk too. That works great. You gotta unmute yourself though.
Sorry, I lost for a second how to unmute myself. I just screenshot it right quick and just brought it up in straight up Microsoft Paint. But yeah, this was our photo. We did talk a little bit, kind of toward the very end, about how we do it at CAG, and we actually do it in pieces where it's like, here's a photo, highlight trigger points on this one, and then move on really quickly to highlight terrain traps on this one, and then move on really quickly to highlight paths on this one. The end result of this is everyone here obviously gets it, but it's a little messy because it's like everything on one page. But also we did talk a bit about how another thing we do in the classroom is we do the exact same thing, but on laminated sheets with marker boards. It's kind of cool. And then also Justin did bring up that we do, even on Zoom, both contexts, we do a blank sheet, do it, and then also answer key and like compare, like how close is this?
Nice. I like the answer key. That's great.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Clayton.
Yep.
Anybody else have a activity they would like to share, or any sort of nuance or differences that you all do for your terrain activities?
Someone in our group, Lyle, made a point of Canadian Avalanche using a program that highlights, it flashes if it's a no-go or go zone. Maybe Lyle could explain that.
Okay, there we go. And as I mentioned to my group, excuse me if I slur, I've still got a lot of Novocaine from the dentist. But on the Canadian Avalanche website, they've got a selection of, I'm going to call it a game, but you have multiple mountain scenes that you use, and you use the annotate, and you pick an up route and or a down route. And if you go into a terrain trap or an area that would release as an avalanche, it just flashes up that whole section red, you're dead, kind of a thing. But it's a really great tool for everyone to use. And then you share the link with your students, because you only have so much time to use it in the classroom, but then they can also utilize it on their own. And it means you have a clear picture, because on your weekend, when you go out, your visibility may be limited. So this gives them an excellent opportunity to view and select terrain.
Awesome. Yeah, I've definitely used that with folks. It's kind of fun for them, especially like in the classroom setting, for them to get up there and like do it in front of everybody, and then it flashes red and they're like, oh no, I don't know anything. No, that's not the reason, but yeah, it's great. Anything else? Anything else from the peanut gallery? Anything else valuable to share from that last breakout room?
It's not via Zoom, but I don't know if anybody's seen the SAM model that Ortovox, like the 3D mountain thing they came out with. It's pretty slick. It's just like all white, and you can just dry erase all over it. So that's really useful. And other than the Zoom webinar, but we've seen benefits of that pad. You can pull slope angles and identify terrain traps and trigger points, all that good stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, or you can make your own, it's paper mache. Get crazy with it. Thanks, Justin. Cool. Well, I'm going to jump back in one last little bit on the presentation. Then we're going to have one more breakout session here. Sharing screen. All right, I already talked about these things. Last thing I want to talk about is just presenter notes as a Zoom best practice. So I've been trying to do this a lot more. I think if you are newer to teaching the online thing, it's really nice to have the notes up there for a particular lesson. because then you're staying on track and speaking the words. Oh, that didn't really work good. But yeah, so taking quality presenter notes to reference really helps you out. And for those of you that have been teaching for a while, it also keeps you on track. I know for me, a couple times already, I've like started to get on a tangent and not look at my notes at all and just speak words. But we got a time plan and we got to keep things moving forwards. And so having the notes allows you to like actually kind of reference what you're supposed to be looking at and keep it simple, stupid. Always try and remember that. So thank you, presenter notes. Like to have those as well. So that leads me into the 8 Zoom teaching best practices that we kind of talked through over the last hour. And that would be these puppies. Bam. Cool. So are there any up here that you all don't agree with or would change the wording of at all? Yeah, or just don't like. I'll post them into the chat so that we have them. But this is just me sitting in a room thinking about the things. This is what I came up with. Nobody takes offense. Everybody thinks it's great. That's good. Cool, because you have to do this now. No, these are just the best practices that I thought to come up with. Use them or lose them, but they've really helped me, I think, in making sure that the Zoom thing stays on point. And now I want to get into a little bit. Yeah, microphone off unless you're asked to say something, Tony. Your audio. So I'm just talking about so people aren't speaking over me. So like how all of you are muted right now, that's really good because then I don't hear your cats or your children or things. Hopefully that makes sense. Nice. Yeah. So presenter notes, as you're creating the presentations, literally if you have the presenter mode, you can type in notes. So you can do it while you're speaking even, you can type in things, but typically I do this before going live and I'll just type in notes over on the side there. And then if you have 2 screens, the presenter notes will be there. So that's another thing that I like to do is to have 2 screens. If you are on just a single laptop, Jody, the presenter notes don't show up. You have to have 2 screens to get the presenter mode. So for those of you that are like only on your single computer, bummer, you don't get the notes. So I invested $100 in a separate screen and it's made things way better for my life. Highly recommend. Oh, nice, Justin. See, you're probably one of the people that were like, I'm a Zoom wizard. I know how to do everything. Oh, man. Everything's just so small then. How do you even do anything? People have huge laptop screens. I already think this is too small. All right. Well, I'm going to go to one more little resourcey thing to show you. So something that I have been working on with the help of a bunch of other humans is actually trying to create a place to compile resources for Avalanche educators. So I launched the basic thing already that already has a bunch of stuff for level 1 Avalanche courses on it. But would love to get y'all's feedback on this, as well as how we can improve it in the future, because I really do hope that it'll be something that'll help you out. So this is what it looks like. If you come here, it's broken down into different sections. So I've got level 1 classroom activities, level 1 field activities, level 2 classroom, level 2 field. I haven't really done much with the level 2, but have a bunch of stuff for the level 1. So if I click here on the level 1, right, I have all of these activities from all sorts of people. Like if I click on Avalanche problems, I've got Dan Sandberg gave this activity about avalanche problems. And here's my activity on avalanche problems, making them into animals. And then here's this avalanche problem sorting activity from Anne. And Eric Haskell has this avalanche problems activity. And then all of these things, if you click on them, will hopefully open up a Google Drive thing where you can actually copy and paste the activity itself, or hopefully download the thing. And so it's just a way of hopefully crowdsourcing from all of you smart humans that already do a lot of stuff, your ideas and the things that you are using. Because there's a lot of people that are new to the game, and even those of us that have been doing it for a while can always learn some more things and get some fresher material. So I have a bunch of activities there. Vince just joined the call. Thank you, Vince. He typed up this great thing on Zoom teaching strategies. So his thoughts on how you can use Zoom to your best advantage. And I think I talked a lot about these things in this presentation here tonight. And then one of the other things I'm gonna put up here before I release you all to look at this and then help me out on it and hopefully get some things out of it, is just talking about creating really sweet classroom itineraries. So I have a itinerary example in here, and I hope that you all kind of have something similar that you use for your courses, because on Zoom, it's really, really nice to have all of the links to all the things you're going to put into chat just already there. And so the person that's backing you up on the computer, like if Liz was my person backing up, I'd actually have her with all the links, and they can just seamlessly put those things into the chat as we go down here. I know my time plan, I have all my resources. So having like a really sweet itinerary with resources can be really, really helpful. So I have all of those things on this resource. Thank you. I think a lot, so there's some people in this room that have submitted those things to me. Appreciate it. But for this last little thing, I'm going to put the link to this website into the chat so you all can look around for a little bit. And then hopefully help me make it better and actually useful to all of you. So let me get the link. There it is. Yes, I know Safari is encrypted. Here you go. So initially, just take a look around kind of individually. All right, y'all, I just put a link for our last breakout room into the chat. It really just has these questions that I already pasted into the chat in there. I would love for you all just to like go through, take a look around, try to answer those questions, and then we'll come back through and yeah, hopefully we can make this thing better.
And Zach, how long are you envisioning this breakout session being?
Let's say it's 6:11. Let's go for 7 minutes. Great. Do I have any volunteers that want to speak the words about what you spoke about in your breakout room?
I'll speak up right away. I might as well. Speak up for my group a little bit. We were commenting on a couple of things, but a few things that stood out is that first of all and foremost, everybody really appreciated what you were doing and they thought it was a great resource. The comment that came up was maybe changing the all white background a little bit to be able to step it out with different boxes or something so that it just breaks it up in sections. Maybe also, you know, having direct links to things like just right within the AIARE level 1, each category, instead of scrolling through so much. But basically it was just such a great resource. And then also it did come up, we were talking about the snowmobile users and how to sort of entice some of them to be able to click on, and there's no categories in regards to moto use. But I would have to say overall, you received some pretty strong kudos, and people were wondering how you have so much time to do this, Zach.
I don't. I volunteer for way too much. Great. Yeah, I definitely thought about the snowmobile users. Did anybody in particular talk about, my background is very AIARE specific, and like I reached out to people in that network in order to get these things. Is there anybody that comes from not an AIARE background or currently teaches not AIARE specific courses that could speak to how this resource could be more inclusive of others? Anybody out there?
I do not come from an AIARE background. And we were chatting about having some of the lessons be called out as like, this meets the AAA's requirement of blank. Or looking more closely at the AAA curriculums and using like some crossover verbiage, maybe. I've got to think about it a little bit more because I think it's an important piece, but those were a couple of things that we spit out just at the very end.
Nice. Well, you've got some time while you're healing to really think about these things and write me a really awesome email about your thoughts later. So thank you in advance, Jody.
I got you.
Anybody else on that topic or any of the other ones? Great. Richard, what you got?
Yeah, Zach, I've thought about this a lot as having a strong AIARE background. I think it's cool whenever an AIARE instructor can find an opportunity to sit in on or attend as a student a non-AIARE Avalanche class, just to see what those classes are like. So it's sort of like we live in this little bubble of, hey, I know the AIARE framework, but what are other people being taught? And I think it might help us answer that question of how to be more inclusive in your resource if we know what other instructors are actually teaching.
I concur. I'll find time to do that. Oh, man. Anybody else? Kind of nearing the end of our time, but want to make sure anybody else had anything awesome they wanted to share.
Yeah, Zach, I think it's like it's all the content that just rules. I really appreciate it, and it's awesome. I think a lot of the things we talked about in our breakout session was just a little bit more organization, like a table of contents or an index, or make it an accordion style thing. It's just something to make it feel more like a toolkit than a blog. It's just kind of, if I can sum up kind of what we chatted about.
Nice. Josh, you got one more thing?
Yeah, I love the idea of either like accordioning with drop downs, or if since you have the links to download the lessons, maybe you don't need, because so you're doubling up basically. You've got the whole lesson there, and then you have it again in the downloadable link. So maybe you just get rid of the whole lesson there, a good appendix at the top or a table of contents, and then like a one-liner description and where it fits in, and then you click on the link to go get it. And the other thing I was going to say, I don't have anything to share about this yet, but I'm from an AIARE background, but we'll be teaching exclusively for AAI this season based on being in Bozeman, and we don't really have AIARE out here except for the MSU program. So I'll have more info on this after this year.
Great. I'm looking forward to hearing from you about that. Yeah, that's great. It makes so much less work for me having to do the whole thing twice. So I really like that. Casey, last comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on what Richard was talking about and what Josh just kind of mentioned with those other providers. And, I've had the opportunity to sit in on a couple of courses that, are other AAA members that aren't AIARE. And I've often like stolen little lessons and pieces of ways that they explain for the AIARE courses that I teach. And so, yeah, ways to engage more instructors who don't teach for AIARE will just exponentially grow the ideas of different ways to teach different topics that meet those like A3 standards that Jody was kind of highlighting. Like, would be nice to maybe see like how things fit in there. But yeah, if there's a way to reach out to other organization instructors and see like, hey, if there's like a common tool or acronym or something like that can get built into it as well. Like I just like stealing things from a whole bunch of different places and what I like and throwing it all in there. So
Totally. Okay, Vince, last thing.
Since Casey mentioned stolen, I think it would be funny if it says provided by the instructor, and then if you could just write in stolen from, that would be really fun for everybody. And then we could see the lineage of it, of the lessons. Because I stole a bunch of that stuff from Kelly. So Kelly, I saw you. Hi.
Great. Well, thank you all. We're nearing the end of our time here. Really appreciate you all coming out, engaging, not giving me too much crap. But yeah, I hope that you got at least a couple things out of this. And I really do hope that this resource continues to grow. But in order for that to happen, I need y'all's help. Obviously, all of these things are not from just me. It's just lots of folks emailing me primarily these different activities. So if you have cool activities that you would like to share with the broader community, please, please, please send them my way and I'll put them up here. If you know some people that have cool stuff that they do, please harass them and say, hey, email them to this guy, Zack, and he'll make you famous on the interwebs or whatever. But I think that the more that we as an instructor community can come together to share and like have a platform to actually do that, the better. And this is like what I've thrown together to come up with it, because I was like, nothing exists and I'm tired of it. So help me out, help make it happen. If you are a web developer or you think that you could do a better job, please take it from me and I will give you everything that I have and you can do it yourself. Because it is a lot and I'm already doing so much. But yeah, happy to be the to head it as well. So no ego for me. If somebody's like, I can take this right now and I have 3 months to only do this, like, please take it. But thank you so much for being here. We are at the end of our time. Let's see, there's lots of people saying things. Great, yeah, that's it. That's all the words I have.
Great. Thank you, Zack, so much. It's a little buried. I'll put it back here again, but if you have a minute, take a minute to give us a little bit of feedback so we can keep making these valuable for you all. We'll follow up with some of the resources that Zack shared, his email address, as well as a recording of the video.